What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And we are speaking the language of bromance. The language of bromance.
We did this once before. We did this with, we call it the LOB Movie Pitch, and we did it for the Creed treatment. So basically, we took an idea of, taking a franchise and kind of pushing it into the future with different characters. And we loved it so much. People loved it so much. We're going to make it a common thing. And so today what we're going to do for our LOB movie pitch, we're going to give the prequel treatment. So what this is, Richard, I thought about this pretty heavily. So in my mind, there are different kinds of prequels. There are prequels that kind of have absolutely nothing to do with the original movie. It just kind of throws in, think like First Purge, It's taking a franchise and just kind of throwing, hey, prequel. You have prequels that like line right up to the first, actual release. You think of things like, The Thing. They came out with The Thing with Kurt Russell back in the day.
Yeah.
A few years back, they came out with The Thing again, which was a prequel that lined up right at the beginning of the first one. You have prequels that kind of give some nods to different things that you've seen in the movie. I'm thinking like Rogue One, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Begins was a recent one where it doesn't really tie right into any of the movies right away. I guess Rogue One kind of did. It kind of tied right into Princess Leia getting on the ship, but still kind of a little bit of a earlier aspect to it. But today, Richard, we are going to do what we love to do and say, like, wouldn't it be cool if we made this movie? And we're going to do that with some prequels.
Yeah. I'll tell you one that it's technically a prequel, but in the timeline, there's things that happen before it. But I would say Captain Marvel is a bit of a prequel because Captain Marvel happens before.
Yeah.
Before most of the Marvel movies, except for Captain America, because Captain America takes place in the 40s.
Yeah, that's true. But it still it has like some nods.
Yeah, so chronologically in the MCU, it's Captain America, then Captain Marvel.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So Richard, I've got let's see, about 7 movies I think would be kind of cool.
Oh my God, that's a lot.
I want to start with my favorite one. It's a movie I've really jumped on. They're going to release the 3rd one soon. They have a comic out that's kind of doing this right now, but I think for a cool prequel, because again, I love the universe that this has created, and I think seeing like you could do this in multiple ways. So I got 2 different kind of prequels for it, but it's John Wick. So you could do a John Wick specific prequel where you follow an early young John Wick as he, is going through, I don't know, maybe he's like in Badtown, USA. And that's kind of what the comic does. But, he's in Badtown, USA. He's got to, protect people or protect his family. It's a rough town kind of thing. And, he slowly has to build these skills to protect people, which earns him kind of the, I guess, respect or just vision, or not visions, but just, gets the Assassin's Guild that we find out about very interested in him. I think it'd be kind of cool to see that flow of him. You get him to learn how you learn how to shoot guns. Why does he like dogs? You could even go even further into it, and you could get the prequel to where it's a complete love story. It's John Wick meets his wife. Maybe that's where you lead it up to, and you see this whole love story that fall apart in the first movie.
Well, I mean, they talk about in John Wick, they talk about like the impossible task or that John Wick did in order to get out of life.
Good point.
You could, I mean, that to me, that sounds like a movie completely unto itself. And like, honestly, in my heart of hearts, I feel like that movie is going to get made at some point.
Well, I think they're doing, and my second idea too is just a fully like prequel on the Assassin's Guild. Like you see like how it's kind of been built, and go back. You could. It's almost like what Assassin's Creed. You do something like that where you go back. Here's the Assassin's Guild from the 1800s. Here's the Assassin Guild from the 1920s. I think they're doing a TV show that's kind of built around the Continental, which is the main hotel where they go to. It's off.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There. I
That's
think Amazon
cool.
or Netflix is doing it. Maybe Hulu. It's one of the streaming services. But I think that you do a movie like that's a trilogy in itself. I mean, it's a prequel trilogy, I guess, but you could follow these different aspects of it, and you follow different characters, a la like a Rogue One, where you're following these bands of misfits that you don't know, but they really kind of set the groundwork for what it means to be in this Assassin's Guild. And you could kind of sprinkle in like a little bit of John Wick, like maybe they run into a kid named John, and you find out it's John Wick. But I think there's a lot of cool stuff you could play with this. And it all really revolves around that universe. I mentioned the different types of prequel movies where you have it. It could, like you said, the impossible task that could be leading right into John Wick 1. You could have something that doesn't really detail it at all, which would be the Assassin's Guild and where they've kind of come from. But I think that's what this universe has, is you could do so many things with it because it's so unknown, but it's so vast, if that makes any sense.
No, I do think that makes sense. I'm curious though. Okay, so when we're talking prequels in this list, are these prequels that haven't been? It's things that have been talked about but haven't been created at all, or are is anything in your list a film or a story that got made and that you wanna fix?
I don't think I have.
I guess the most prominent example I can think of would be the Star Wars prequels. Like, would you want to just scrap the 3 that were there and then make new ones
for it? You could totally use that as yours if you want. I think Rogue One kind of did that, where they kind of say, "Listen, we're gonna kind of start this as our year 0 of our Disney Star Wars universe." But if you have a pitch for the Star Wars prequels, I would totally be open to hearing what that is.
Well,
I don't, but better. That's all I have.
Yeah, just like if you take. So what I'm saying is if you take those 3 movies and then throw them in the garbage. Well, if you take 2 of those movies and throw them in the garbage, and then you just make better ones, then that would be the best.
I like 3. Return of the Sith I liked.
That's why. Yeah, that's why I was like 3. I was like, nah, 2, because I was happy. I mean, 3 dragged a little bit for me, but I felt like 3 was the most complete of those 3. I mean, and things tied together fairly nicely by the time you got to the end. So, okay, so with John Wick, so would you want him starting out, or would you want to know what this impossible task was and this thing that he apparently did in one night that like was so fucking amazing that now he gets to hang out with his woman for the rest of his life? He's officially retired.
I think a good prequel would you could almost do both. Like, you could really start out like, here's John Wick when he's starting out, and you see him kind of progress. And maybe like
God, you're going to make 3 movies out of this, aren't you?
Yeah. No, it'd be 1 movie. Because I think if you try to make 3 out of it, it'd probably stretch it too much. But if you did kind of, the first, quarter, first 30% of the movies, where he came from, how he got in this life, seeing him grow up, and then you kind of see him like doing, like he's the boogeyman doing stuff, and then all of a sudden he meets this woman, and like the later half of it is him doing that impossible task. Because what I love about the John Wick movies is you get kicked into action right away, and that's what I think you have to do with this. It's 25% of like, okay, here's him doing all these crazy ass things. There's like a 15-minute window where you're like, oh my God, he's in love, and then the rest of it's him doing this impossible task so that he's free of this whole thing. And the end scene, Richard, it's done for you. The beginning and end scene, you sandwich this, you bookshelf it. You have him putting all this stuff in that basement in a hole, with a concrete mixer, and you just cut to that throughout the movie with him like putting stuff in there, pouring it on, and the last shot is just him kind of smoothing that concrete out
and putting the rug over it.
Yep, and and then you hear from upstairs, dinner's ready, or
I bought you a dog.
No, that was after she died. But yeah, my first one I'd be kind of excited about would be a John Wick prequel.
Okay. I kind of like it. That honestly, so you say John Wick, I think Keanu Reeves. A prequel story that I would be interested in, I would be curious to see a Matrix movie, a Matrix prequel, but I want to hear about Morpheus. I want to see Morpheus learn how to be a badass. I think that would be awesome.
They take the red pill? Is that what brought him out?
I can
never remember. So,
and also, like, who was it that pulled Morpheus out?
Yeah. I thought about a Matrix one. I couldn't think quite how to go with it because I always kind of focused on the Keanu Reeves character. But yeah, I think that'd be great. You figure out like what pulled him out.
Yeah.
How he figured it out, what he went through. And what you really
and like
probably
what makes him such a staunch, believer in things.
Well, honestly, probably like what you could do, like the whole idea in that first one is whoever pulled him out thought he was the one and ended up like basically caught, like they lost their life protecting Morpheus because they thought Morpheus was the one. And that's why he has so much baggage on him because he was the chosen one, essentially. He was the one, but he wasn't. And so now it's his like life mission to figure out who the one is. And you build like this whole mythicism, like people like doubting him, being like, there is no one. Like you're fucking crazy. Like it was some batshit idea by Greg. I don't know why he doesn't have a cool name. Everyone else does, but he's just Greg.
Oh my God. What do you think Morpheus was doing before he got pulled out of the Matrix? Was he like a fry cook?
No, I think he was a plumber. Yeah, he plumbed.
Plumbed.
Is that what you call it? You call it plumbed? No, I bet he was a plumber. He seems like he had his own little small business. He went home to, his wife who kind of nagged a lot. And he always kind of like felt like his business never quite like reached what it should have. Like he always kept getting outbid by this one dude by just enough that he kept losing jobs.
I know. I like the thought of Lawrence Fishburne like walking down the street in overalls, like whistling with a pipe in his hand.
Well, I think that's what why Greg, who is the Morpheus in this version, why he thought that Morpheus was the one is because the Matrix itself had like these kind of stuff in place to keep him from like getting better, like realizing the skills that he had.
He's gonna plumb his way out of the Matrix.
Well, isn't that kind of the idea?
No, don't you understand? It's all pipes, man. Fucking Matrix, it's all fucking pipes, man.
You see an elbow joint, I see a woman in a red dress. No, but that's kind of the whole idea behind the Matrix is they make your life kind of ho hum because they realize that if people had all the things they want, like it wouldn't work. So they keep him from being super happy because the fear is that he would see through what the Matrix is.
I see.
And that's what Greg's thought was like, oh my God, this is the one because of these things that the Matrix has put in place, what the robots have done. And that's why he was so invested.
And then like at the end of the first Matrix movie where Neo's like, oh my goodness. And then he looks down this hallway and he sees like all the little lines of code. Then Morpheus would look down the hallway and it'd just be like water pipes.
It'd be Mario Brothers. So, I mean, would you have that like end right as he like, again, I always like prequels that kind of because obviously Morpheus, the guy who plays him, is a little bit older. So, maybe you have him sitting in a chair, like reminiscing on these. I always feel like prequels do a good job with that.
I think ideally the only place you could end it would be him getting control of his ship. Like he's the captain of the ship, the Nebuchadnezzar. Mm-hmm. Like he gets control of the ship and that's where you end it. Kind of like how in Solo, like Han gets the Falcon and then that's the end.
So you wouldn't have him like, I always think of fan service with this. Would you have like something bop up on his radar where it leads him to the Keanu Reeves character? Or would you just leave that completely off?
No, you'd leave that completely off.
Okay.
Because then you get the possibility of like, hey, let's do a fucking Morpheus TV show where like, he goes on wacky capers and gets people out of jams and shit.
He like goes into houses like he is a plumber and he's like, all right, do you want the red pipe or the blue pipe?
Yeah. And
like,
he's like, I'm not sure. And then let's find out who you really are.
I like it.
Oh my God, it's an agent. It's Hugo Weaving.
I think, are they doing a sequel to Matrix? I thought the Wachowski sisters.
As far as I know, they're done.
Oh, I thought I heard rumors they were doing something.
Oh, I don't know. But then, okay, so there's that. Would you want to go back even further and see like the war, like how it all started between
Oh,
humans,
you know
between
what?
humans and machines?
That would be
Or
awesome.
was
'cause
that just Terminator? Is that just Terminator?
I mean, it's like Terminator, but I think if you did that right, it would be pretty cool because you would have okay, so you can pull from Terminator a little bit, not like obviously Terminator, but you can pull themes. You'd have the Matrix, and one show that did this really, really well was Dollhouse. It was the one by oh, why is his name? Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon did Dollhouse. He did 2 seasons of Dollhouse. I don't know if you don't know the premise. Basically, they were like escorts where they would like they could pull your knowledge out and like inject like fake memories and stuff in your head, and you go on dates and do all this other
Right.
kind of stuff. And what happened in there's only 2 episodes of the very last episode of season 1, the very last episode of season 2. Somebody had like militarized that tech and was basically able to do that without the big machine. So they'd be walking down the street and like, boop, all right, all your memories are gone. Now you're this. It was like a
Oh, shit.
wasteland kind of scenario. And like I think if you pulled that, like you have these like small clusters of people who are trying to fight these, and you just kind of see the start of this, human revolution versus robots taking over. Like that would be a cool.
Or you
TV
see
series
like
to
the
me.
first quote unquote the one? Like who would that be? Who would
well,
you
you
want
could-
the first one to be?
Well, I think you could. Well, there was never an actual one besides Keanu Reeves, right? Like that's what they were looking
Well,
for.
no, there was the machines would said that Keanu Reeves was basically an anomaly that was basically like because of the inherent improbability in the Matrix itself that inevitably Keanu like the shit that Keanu Reeves could do inside the Matrix, like that had to happen.
Okay. Because I never watched 2 and 3 because I heard 2 was okay and 3 sucked or vice versa.
I mean, I don't know. They were all okay, but I would say that like, basically what they're saying is that because that there has to be a bit of inherent chaos in the Matrix in order to ground it in reality.
Yeah.
That the anomaly is what Neo is referred to. The anomaly like has to exist, but then he goes. But then what happens is that the machines destroy Zion. The one, the anomaly, goes and selects he returns his code to the Matrix, because if he doesn't, then the whole system collapses. Like the Matrix collapses, everybody connected to the Matrix dies. And so basically he's presented with the option of if you don't do this, then we're going to destroy Zion. You're going to kill humans connected to the Matrix. So basically you're going to wipe out the entire human race. Or you can let us destroy Zion, then you select a new group of people that will go and rebuild Zion, and then we'll do this all over again with somebody else.
Oh, okay. So it's basically like wasn't it like the idea that what they were in was like another Matrix, was like a second level of the Matrix?
No, just basically that Neo wasn't the first person that was the one.
I gotcha.
That there was somebody before that.
It was a program kind of thing. Like it was
Yeah.
it was a cycle of a program.
Yeah,
I got
exactly.
But yeah, that'd be interesting, I guess. I kind of think I like the idea better of going back to like when like you start seeing families with like home robots, like they're like, "Hey Alexa," and Alexa's like, "Fuck you," and you kind of
And then Alexa pulls out a fucking knife, and then you're like, "Oh
Yeah.
shit!"
because they did the Fear the Walking Dead type thing where it's like I want to see like the actual collapse of this, not like all of a sudden bam robots or bam zombies. Like give me like the years of, because that's got to be a long time for that to progress and happen. So I think the idea with the Matrix, that'd be really cool to do as like a TV series, like you said.
Yeah. And like I said, okay. So like I said, they apparently had a first anomaly, because they're saying that Neo was the 5th iteration of the anomaly. So who would you want? Who would you want to be the? Yeah. So who would you want to be Neo 1.0? Would it just be
Chris
Keanu
Hemsworth.
Reeves again? Yeah.
I mean that'd be kind of cool. But you'd have to de-age him. But I think like Chris Hemsworth would be pretty cool.
Well, you wouldn't necessarily have to de-age him because it'd just be he'd be somebody completely different.
Yeah, he'd be a less yeah, no, that makes sense. It'd be him like a version of him. So yeah, that'd actually probably work out pretty well.
And then you're like, why do they all look alike? And then you're like, maybe they're clones. Oh my God, there's a room full of Keanu Reeves somewhere.
Oh my God, it's like the room full of puppies I want.
And then he says, did you say puppies? And you're like, no, wait.
All right, well, my other prequel that I got on my mind, we'll get off the Keanu Reeves a little bit. But Richard, they're coming out with a fourth version of this, a number 4 in the series. This is a show, I've only saw the first one back in like 96 when it first came out. And I loved it as a kid. I haven't watched 2 and 3 until very recently when I had a kid. And I'm kind of getting nostalgic. And number 4, I feel is like going to do the exact same kind of pulling on my heartstrings. And that's Toy Story, Richard. You know, Toy Story 2, you like, oh man, you watch Toy Story 3, like you
watch Toy Story 1 and you're like, oh, this is a fun movie. Then you watch Toy Story 2 and you're like, that was really good. You know, that was it was a movie with heart. You watch Toy Story 3 and like you're just filled with eternal sadness that never goes away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at
burrows into your heart and creates a hole that will never be filled. And I mean that in the like best way possible because
well, is
that last 20 minutes, Shawn, I cried in the theater. I was a grown man and I was in the theater and I was weeping.
I was prepped for it and I cried.
And I was doing my best. I was doing my best to like hide it because like I'm like, sitting next to I was sitting next to my kids. I was honestly like it's happened a lot since, and I don't know if it's just because I've gotten older or whatever. But that is honestly the first time I was in a theater and a movie like emotionally affected me the way that movie did.
It's out. I mean, but you just think it's a nostalgia thing. You know, it's as a parent, your kid's growing up and putting away childish things. And you're kind of like, oh my gosh, like, you know, when did you go from playing with this, you know, all these toys to going to college or, you know, getting through high school? And I think what would be kind of cool for a prequel for this would be, it's just kind of a simple one sentence thing, but it's Woody's path to Andy. You know, what was happening to Woody before he got to Andy? Because he's an old toy. He's not like something I think they picked off a shelf. So, you know, what is that time like before he gets to his rightful owner? You know, has he always done this? Has he always been this kind of journeyman of kids? Because that's what the fourth one kind of looks like. He's kind of helping all these toys with their new owner. And he did that with Andy as well. And he was always kind of like a good leader. Is that something he learned? Is it something that, you know, was he?
Well, because apparently according to Toy Story 2, he'd been around since like I'm guessing the 50s,
40s or 50s. Yeah, he was a big deal then. And he was like one of those specific, like he wasn't like a remake or anything like that. Like he would have been specific to that.
Yeah. So like what did he do for fucking like 40 years?
Yeah. Well, oh my gosh. Could you imagine like if you go back to the 40s and he's with a kid there too, that he like helps through something. And like he's like this journeyman toy where you just, and oh my God, like could you imagine like watching these as you see these kids grow up and get older and like leave the house? And you know, it's kind of like he's like the Santa Claus kind of thing. He's like, oh,
yeah, but I was gonna say like how is he you know still fucking optimistic?
Well, because
at this point,
because his goal is to you know be there for kids. Like he's a toy that wants to make sure kids are happy. Because have you seen the trailer for Toy Story 4?
I have. And I watched it, and like already, I'm like, that movie's gonna make me cry.
Well, and you see,
I'm watching it, and I'm like, yep, that's gonna. I can't go to the theater and see that. I just can't. Yeah. I don't want people to see me in that state.
And that's
I'll have to sit in the back.
That's what you see with Woody in there. Is he's like, okay, this girl made this toy that doesn't want to be a toy. But he is like, listen, you're her favorite toy. Like, we have to do this, be her happy because we're toys. We're here to make sure kids are happy, that they have great childhoods. And, you see that prequel of him doing stuff like that. Maybe it's just like one early on. Like I think like you could like you put him in like the 40s or 50s and helping out like this kid. You know, his dad's maybe off to war, or maybe he doesn't come back from war. Like pull on those heartstrings. Like you make it like you're got adults and they're just bawling their eyes out. And you think it's like, okay, his kid grows up. That's the end of the prequel. Oh, I bet he gets with Andy now. Nope. You see him get like with another kid, you know, through a yard sale or maybe past town, maybe to Andy's mom or something like that. Or maybe maybe the prequel is with Andy's mom. Like maybe she passed the toy down to him. But I just think that would be a really cool kind of, you know, they've done great with the first three. I think the fourth one will probably be good. But just to get that backstory on Woody would be really, really interesting to me.
And then have him like meet his friends. And then it
Oh
would
yeah.
flash forward to something fucking sad that will make me cry a bunch. I hate this idea. Shawn, I don't want to cry in a don't make me cry in a theater. Why are
It's
you
okay to
putting this
feel.
on me?
It's okay to feel. It makes us feel
Ugh.
alive. I mean, it's one of those. This is the
wanna
movie.
feel alive.
Like this is the movie that made me go in our attic and pull down my toys for my kiddo. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I did this before I watched episode 2 and 3 for Toy Story. And like as I'm sitting there watching this with my kid, he's sitting there playing with my Ninja Turtles. You know, and it's like, oh my gosh, like this is the circle of life with toys. And I'm like,
Yeah.
kid, don't grow up and go to college. Be 3 forever.
Yeah.
Because they do. They grow
And
up
he's
fucking
like,
quick.
okay. And
Yeah.
then you're like, was that a good idea? Did I put a good idea in his head? And then 20 years later, you're like, it wasn't a good idea.
Yeah. It's like, get a job. He's like, no, you said not to.
Yes, sir,
Pudding.
I want him to pay rent, but he can't.
But that's my number 2 kind of idea is Toy Story and following like Woody in the past. Like I said, 40s, 50s, 60s, as far back as you want to go.
It seems like your prequels are centered around basically like one character that you just want to see, like, what's that character's story?
Yeah, that's the ones I kind of always like. I think my next couple ones changed it up a little bit. They're more in the universe. Because like John Wick, you could have done a universe where John's not really in it. He's kind of more of a passive character.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Now I'm just trying to think of popular franchises. Okay. What about what about Harry Potter? Would you want to see a Harry Potter prequel? Like,
Yeah, we already kind of got those.
with his parents?
I think that would be super dark and depressing. I've only seen a couple of the Harry Potter movies. They're ones that I want to
Right.
sit down and go through, but just it never really sparked
Oh, like
my
that
fancy.
that Fantastic Beasts is kind of a prequel. It doesn't
Yeah.
really focus on his story, but
But you're talking like you'd want to see like no magic, just Harry Potter like living under
no,
a
not no
set of
magic.
stairs.
No, I mean like
And you'd want to
like the story
so-
of like his
you'd want to see an abused
like the story
kid
of his
who gets
parents.
abused by his aunt and uncle,
God damn.
And he has
That's
to live-
exactly what I want to say.
and
Yeah,
really,
that's what you know what? You know what? You know what? And I guarantee you that I would cry less at that movie than I would at fucking Toy Story 4. I
Like,
guarantee
well,
that would happen.
kind of deserved it. He did spill the milk. God
Yeah.
damn Harry Potter.
And then I'm gonna watch Toy Story 4 and I'm like,
Let's see. So one that I've heard they shot. This is a scary movie, and I heard they had some of this stuff in the script early on, and it seemed really, really cool. So Richard, I don't know how much you know about Stephen King's It, like the mythology around it.
I don't know anything about the mythology that surrounds the thing known as it.
So it in the books, and I think they might allude to it in the new movie that's coming out. He basically rode this thing like an asteroid into Earth, crash landed in what became Derry, Maine, and he basically lived there for a while until people started to settle, and then that's when all the shit started to happen. I think it'd be
So
really
it's an alien.
it's like a god alien kind of thing. Like the reason
Oh my god, is it like the C word that we shall not mention?
Kinda. Actually, yeah, kinda. Because why he turns into a spider or she turns into a spider is because that's like all a human could process as a giant spider. You can't see its actual form.
Uh-huh.
So it'd be cool to see like you start the movie with that crash landing and you just see like it destroy this area. And over time, hundreds, thousands of years, you start to see like vegetation, you see animals, and you see like weird
Yeah.
stuff happen, like, these animals dying and this thing eating it. But what you're really building this around is essentially, I guess it's just like the It movie, but in pioneer times. So you've got these people coming.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, you got these people coming, settling this area, because one of the creepiest things that was alluded to in the new movie that they wanted to do is because have you seen the new movie? I can't remember.
Bits. I haven't seen it start to finish, but most of it.
Okay, this isn't real spoilery, but the idea is like and they do it in the trailers, is like the adults in Maine kind of ignore that all this is going on. Like
Right.
they're not, and a lot of people are saying it's like, well, they know something's going on, they're just playing dumb. Well,
Yeah.
one of the scenes that they were going to do for it, but they cut because it was too fucking creepy, was they were going to have Pennywise holding a baby or a child or something, and the mom come out and catch him. And the mom, and basically Pennywise is going to be like, listen, I'll leave all your other kids alone, but I'm taking this one and eating it. And kind of like the whole
Damn.
idea is like the town knows about this stuff, but they ignore it because it's like, well, we'll keep my kid inside and let Pennywise get all these other kids until he's full, and then we'll go on with our lives. But you essentially, with this pioneer thing, is you build up to that kind of idea that these adults know this is going on, but they don't say anything.
I just like the idea of a monster movie set in like pioneer times.
Yeah, no, I
sounds
love that
cool.
too. Well, and the thing is there's a bunch of cool stuff in the book about. So whenever Pennywise shows up, a lot of weird shit happens. Like during kind of the pioneer times when they're kind of like, it's more westerny at this point, but they had like these outlaws that came into town, and basically the whole town like just killed them all. And in pictures and stuff, you see Pennywise in the background. There's like a big mine explosion, and Pennywise was there. There's the big Easter egg explosion where a bunch of people died.
An Easter egg explosion?
There was like an Easter egg hunt, like near I don't know if it was coal mine or and like the mine blew up, and all the kids and stuff that were there died. But again,
shit.
But like the pioneer idea, like, and what I like about some of these horror movies too, especially the prequels, is you can't have your bad guy look weak and die, because it's building up to like you can't have like the same group of like loser friends come and beat Pennywise in pioneer time. Like,
so you would end it with the adults going like, well, I guess
we got
we'll just
27 years to figure this out.
Yeah, we'll give him a kid every once in a while.
Kind of. I mean, you basically end this one kind of on the downer, where it's like, fuck, he's still out there. Like, what do you do?
Yeah. What the fuck's the matter with these goddamn adults?
Oh, but it'd be a lot
And the
scary.
kids are like, oh my fucking God, this thing's killing us. The parents are like, well, you're not my kid. Wait, what?
Well, what's creepy too, like you said, pioneer times, like it wouldn't be in your indoor bathroom, it'd be in your outhouse. And he'd be sitting there in the bottom of it. We all float down here.
Yeah. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Plus, like, there's no light.
No.
Like, they're all walking around with like fucking
lanterns
and guns. What happens when it snows? Everything's all bleak and cold.
You're sitting there on the pooper and you hear crunch, crunch.
Hey there, Georgie. Do you think he'd be a clown?
Oh yeah, he's always a clown. He would probably show up as something scary, because that's the other thing in the book that they kind of did, is he was only really the clown when he was around the kids. But when he was actually trying to like scare them to feed on him, he'd be something else. He'd be like a werewolf or Frankenstein or something different. But I think maybe budget wise, or maybe because it's creepier, he's always the clown more in the movie. But yeah, I mean, like, what would be scary, like in this time? Like he shows up and he's like, "Guess what? I'm dysentery." No, I'm the measles.
I'm dysentery. That sucks for the dude in the outhouse.
That's true. At least he's in the right spot.
Like he's in the outhouse, and then it's like, I'm dysentery. Wait, no, I don't want to be dysentery. Oh,
there's poo everywhere.
Now I'm gonna eat you.
Oh, you taste like shit. But that's my other one I've been kind of pondering, is a It prequel.
I mean, like I like that. I guess I like it more for the fact of like, oh my God, fucking like a monster movie set in the pioneer era Like
Yeah.
sounds super fucking creepy. Cause what's the problem that people always say with like the horror movies of today? It's like things like, oh, well, why don't they use their fucking phone? Why don't
Yeah.
they,
Well,
why
like
don't
then
they call
too,
911? But these fuckers are like out on the fucking frontier.
even more isolated.
Yeah.
It's like mom and pa are going to town. They'll be back in 7 years.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
And then they come back and all the kids are
Oh,
dead.
fuck,
They're like, what happened to all the kids? And they're like, we didn't have any kids. And you're like, yeah, you did. You had like 8.
Nope.
Now there's only 4 here.
Could you imagine how creepy it'd be? Like I've already got a shot in mind. So like the kids peek out the window and the moon's shining on the snow out in the pasture, and there's like a cow or two walking by, and there's just Pennywise standing out there waving with a balloon.
Oh,
how fucking creepy would that be?
What did a clown look like in Pioneer times?
He would probably look pretty similar. They always
I bet it looks worse. I bet it looks even fucking scarier.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look
now
at
I gotta Google it.
You look at some of the Halloween costumes kids wore back then. Fucking
That's
creepy.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so you give me your next idea, and I'm gonna look at this creepy picture.
All right, so let's stick around. Let's stick with some of the horror stuff. So, I'm a sucker for vampire movies, and this vampire movie was based on I think it was a Russian movie first, and then they made this one, which was Let Me In, Let the Right One In. Basically, the two movies.
Okay.
The American version is the one I'm thinking of, but I would be very interested in seeing. So, now I don't know if you know what it is or not. Basically, Let Me In. It's a vampire girl who's like maybe she's like 10 or 12 years old, and she has this guy that basically is like her handler, like the guy that kind of gets her through from place to place during the day and whatnot. And the movie is super creepy because they move in, and the boy next door thinks that the family that moved in, like the dad's being abusive to the girl, but it's really the other way around. Like you hear growling, you hear stuff getting thrown around. It's because she's a pissed off vampire. I think it'd be cool to see that aspect from her first time meeting somebody, like her becoming a vampire. Maybe how she met this guy who I'm guessing it's probably like how this movie was, where she met him as a boy and then he kind of became her handler. And because the one thing that a lot of people talked about this movie, they almost kind of see it as like a very romantic kind of thing. Like, oh, it's this boy and this vampire girl that fell in love. And really, it's this vampire girl who's using this guy. So she goes out, she finds a young boy that she can basically be like, hey, you're going to be my handler forever until you get too old and I can't use you anymore. And kind of see her progression of, okay, well, I've got this guy who I've used and thrown him to the side. Now I've got this guy. Kind of cool to see that progression on that. Did you ever see Let Me In or any of those?
No, I hadn't. I haven't. Like, I think there was Let the Right One In.
There's Let the Right One In and Let Me In, I think. I can't remember which one's the Russian one. Definitely check both those out. The Russian one's really good, and the other one's really good too.
Okay. Okay. So found pictures, and you know what? They're about as horrible as you would imagine. Honestly, they look very similar to basically like what Pennywise looks like. Like they didn't really change much.
Oh God, actually that first one's freaking creepy.
Right? Ugh.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't
either.
like it. Close
I know
that
that's
window.
what they based the show on, is kind of, or his original design was kind of that earlier, setup, because it was kind of a down and dirty type of thing. Oh, great. John Wayne Gacy. Yeah, that'll help me sleep.
Yep. You're welcome.
Thanks.
You did this to me, so now I have to do it to you.
All right. Well, like I got a vampire one in there. I got that one. Do you have I've got 3 more that I'm kind of.
I mean, the vampire one. Would you? Okay, so like how far back are you going with the vampire one?
Honestly, that's one that I think you just go back to the guy that was with her in this movie. But
would you want to see vampires in Pioneer times?
Oh, that'd be pretty cool too.
Yeah,
I think anything in Pioneer times that we don't have would be cool.
I think it adds. I think we've kind of stumbled onto something here, because a scary movie set in like the Old West, like, to me sounds even scarier.
There's never been one like done really well either, has there?
I can't really think. That's the thing, is I can't think of one. I can't think of a horror movie that has been set in like the Old West. I mean, I'm sure there's been some. I just can't think of any off the top of my head.
Well, you just give me my next project to write. I think that's the main thing I like about these LOB movie pitches is I come up with new script ideas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because
Great.
it doesn't
Now I
have
have a now off Shawn goes to the coffee shop. I great.
but yeah, I mean that's something too. Like you don't.
Hey Shawn, you want to do a show? I can't. I'm at the coffee shop. La 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 la.
They have
One more
hot chocolate
frappuccino,
here,
please.
Richard.
I'm making a movie. La 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 la.
But I mean, it doesn't even have to be it. Like it could be, like you said, vampires. You could create your own monster. So I really dig that idea.
I mean, basically, what I'm saying is like, what if we made The Village, but it was good?
Oh yeah, good point. Like actually set in pioneer
Like,
times, not fake.
Actually make it like The Village,
Yeah.
but good and not. That movie pissed me off so bad.
You called it pretty early, didn't you?
I did. I called it like 30 minutes in, and then it just ruined the whole thing for me.
What triggered that for you in that movie? Because I know you've always said that you're like, I figured it out 30 minutes in.
You know what? Honestly, I can't remember. I think it was the fact that like, because like they had it where like, oh, the adults don't know, the adults are being all secretive or or whatever. I will say that I didn't think that it was like this sort of like weird social experiment. Like I mean, okay, spoilers, but honestly, you don't care. Don't worry about it. Like when all the adults all of a sudden are like, oh, I'm actually, I used to be a researcher at blah, blah university.
I was a lawyer.
I'm not. Yeah. And then, like the fact that like, oh, I was a cultural expert and a historian. That's why we made everything super accurate. Like that one, I was like, all right. But at the same time, I was like, they're like in the middle of a fucking like, they're like, this is set in modern times. They're just out in the middle of the fucking boonies.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was that triggered it for me, but like, I don't know, but it just totally ruined it for me.
I think I saw that in theaters, and I've always kind of had like a hate relationship with Shyamalan. Like it's just, I don't know. I feel like he tries to outthink the room kind of thing. It's the
I mean, okay. So did you watch Glass? I haven't seen Glass yet either.
I did. It felt a lot like Unbreakable to me. Like I really liked what was the middle? Split. I really liked Split. Like it was a good movie just on its own. But I feel like Glass, they tried to tie it all in together. And he created kind of a cool universe idea, but again, it just kind of like, okay, that's your third movie for this. Like, all right, like I get it, kind of, but
meanwhile, Sean's like, I can do better. They actually lived in pioneer times. The end. Another frappuccino, please. La 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 la.
I'm making a movie. Sure you are. So is everybody else here with a Mac.
You and the other 20 people sitting in here there, buddy. Yeah, but mine's about. Wait, I can't tell you. Other people will steal it. Didn't you put it on a podcast?
Wait, you listened?
We copyright.
You were playing it loudspeaker when you walked in. Oh, well, you want a bumper sticker?
What if we made a movie, Pioneer Times? Ha ha ha! I'm gonna make this movie. La 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 la.
Decaf for the Shawn.
Can I get a decaf for Cian? Decaf Cian.
Oh
no,
that's not how you spell it. The two quick ones I'll throw in here, because I think they both kind of fall together. Ready Player One and Hotel Artemis. They both kind of take place in kind of a dystopian world, and I think kind of seeing how that all fell would be interesting. Ready Player One would be kind of interesting because it.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know about Ready Player One. Like, I feel like things are kind of set up. Like, I don't know. Like, where would you go with it?
It'd
like
be tougher.
Just the rise of the Oasis, because you kind of get that in pieces.
I just think because the way it all kind of is sold to you is the world, there's like this big collapse and everything kind of fell, and then through that came the Oasis where people kind of navigated to. You could probably like in the prequel allude that the Oasis is what caused everything to fall because people had this thing they could start going to, then businesses started moving towards it. Actually, probably as I say it out loud, it'd be more of like an economical movie, which would probably be super boring.
Well, that's like I feel like it's it's hard. Like I can't really think of a lot to expand upon when you're talking about Ready Player One.
Yeah, it's
But I mean, like in the before.
it'd be one of those movies where you're taking the property and building this like movie that relates to it, but has nothing to really impact the actual Ready Player One movie itself. But like I said, it'd be more like an economical. It'd be like a Wall Street, except right as this whole world's falling apart, kind of thing, and people go into
Yeah,
the Oasis to figure out how to better people's lives or something. Hotel Artemis was just I don't know if you saw that, but it was basically the medical center where criminals would go.
right,
Same
right.
kind of idea.
It
Cool
was like
universe.
it was a hotel, but in the basement there was like a fully stocked fucking like operating theater and all that other shit.
Yeah, yeah. So I think trying to figure out how that world came to would be kind of neat. The last one I'll do, it was kind of cool because it was a movie that it's a Kevin Smith movie. It's a movie that he made where he's like, I'm gonna try and make like whenever you think I'm going a certain direction, I'm gonna change it. And I think he had a
Yeah.
buddy who at the very end of it said like, what's the ending for this? And he said, well, I can't do it because it's too expensive. And he's like, well, what is it? And he said, God, the
Oh,
angels
yeah.
actually show up. I think a prequel for Red State would be kind of cool. And I say
So
that
this would be the rise of
the Cooper family.
the Cooper family.
So
That'd be kind of interesting.
If you go with like, because it's very much like a Manson type like cult movie, I think, super dark,
Yeah.
super creepy, and you could essentially, and because at the end of the original movie, you do hear a horn blow, and like they make it sound like, oh, it was some kids messing around, but in the original ending, they wanted it to actually be the start of the apocalypse. So like the
Yeah,
Cooper family
yeah.
was kind of in the right. Like they kind of actually were not really validated, but like at least they knew something was coming. Like they weren't super batshit crazy, even though it might have just
Yeah.
been luck more than actually them knowing something.
And actually, there is another thing that did something very, very similar to what you're talking about. And I don't want to spoil it for you because it actually involves something that I know you're doing. So I'll leave that be.
Oh, is it Umbrella Academy? Something in there?
No, it's not Umbrella Academy. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't give me that look. Just don't worry about it.
Okay. But it'd be kind of interesting with this to basically like you hear and even though he's gone, Parks is gone, but if you have a younger person play him, like he starts having these visions or he starts having these like words whispered in his ears about the coming apocalypse, and it's his mission from God.
And I think it would tell an interesting story about, how the fuck does a person get like that?
Oh yeah.
How the fuck does a human being go from being a person to being so consumed with fucking rage and anger and hate? Like, is that, what is that journey?
Well, and you ride that line.
I think that's super interesting.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like you talk about like because obviously the whole thing's based on the Phelps Roper family, and the whole God hates fags thing, and all that other stupid ass bullshit. But like before, like a lot of the family are lawyers, but like the former patriarch of the whole family was like a civil rights attorney.
Well, I think didn't he
He argued in front of the Supreme Court.
Didn't he
on
end up
behalf
before
of the end? Did he end up what?
Didn't he end up like on his deathbed, like basically like, wait, I'm actually wrong in all this? And his family like said, get the fuck out of here. You're crazy.
Maybe, I don't know. But like he argued in front of the Supreme Court on behalf of the NAACP. So like, like just to see a journey of someone to be like, how did you reach the conclusions that you fucking reached?
Yeah.
That to me sounds super interesting. It's almost like a character study.
Yeah.
On like,
yeah.
It's like it's kind of like The Killing Joke, where it's that whole like, you're just one bad day from being me. We're one bad day away from being me.
Well, I think
Like, what does it take?
in this too, if you ride that line, so I don't think you want to come straight out and say like he's crazy or anything like that. I think you would want to kind of like ride that line. It's like, wait, is he actually talking to God? Wait, is he just actually crazy? Like, what's going on here?
Right.
And in the end, you just don't know. You leave it up to the audience to decide. And I think that'd be kind of a really cool
Yeah.
kind of idea on there.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. So we've got Pioneer horror movie. We've got Toy Story
Pioneer horror
prequel.
movie. I think I will allow you to go to the coffee shop and write a Pioneer horror movie.
All right. Well,
Because I want to see what that fucking looks like.
Well, I'll start working on it. It's my next goal then. So, but as we're tidying up this LOB movie pitch episode, Richard, what are some of Richard's closing thoughts as we give the prequel treatment to some of these movies?
You know, not a lot. Despite what Hollywood says, not a lot of movies need a prequel. You know, because with a lot of movies, if you're going like, hey, where did this come from? Where did this come from? Where did that come from? Why are they doing that? Like, you can sum a lot of that up in like 15 minutes. Lord of the Rings, for example, you're going to get a whole series on Amazon that they spent 80 gajillion, and I'm not exaggerating. They literally wrote a check for $80 gajillion. I didn't even know that was a number. I didn't even know that existed, but they did. I saw the check. It said $80 gajillion. That's how much they're paying to make this fucking show about what happens before even The Hobbit. Okay? And to me, in the very first Lord of the Rings movie done by Peter Jackson, they tell the whole story in like 7 minutes. They're like, hey, there was a, bad guy made a ring. The ring makes people go bonkers. There was this guy once, and he put it on, and he was going to destroy it, but then the ring was like, don't do it. And then dude was like, okay. And then something bad happened to him, and then the ring went into the river, and nobody found it until this weird, creepy hobbit found it, and they went and lived in the mountains with it. The end. But wait, it's only the beginning.
So you're saying you can't stretch that to 10 episodes for $10 gajillion?
Yeah. Well, apparently you can if you spend $80 gajillion. If you write a check for $80 gajillion, you apparently can tell whatever the fuck story you want. But I'm saying not everything deserves a prequel. But I think that you've laid out a couple that I would definitely be interested in seeing. Because to me, I think that there's, what should cause you to tell a story before, prequels are hard because I think they're inherently something that you have to fight in order to make it relevant, because the fundamental thing with a prequel is apparently it's a story before a story. So the first question people ask is like, well, if that story's so fucking interesting, why didn't you tell that one first?
That's true.
Why are you telling?
The one thing I really like.
Why are you starting it from the middle and now you're giving me the beginning?
Yeah. Well, one thing we talked about with like you asked, I don't remember when it was, if we even recorded it or not, or if it was just a general discussion, but you said, hey, if you have restrictions on your writing, do you feel like you get better things out of it? And with a prequel, that's kind of what you have. It's like here's your box of stuff that you can build around. Yeah. Don't get out of that box.
Here are the constraints that you have to work within.
Yeah, I always thought that'd be an interesting challenge. It sounds like I kind of have a couple ideas to play with. So
I like it. I love it. I'm looking forward to the many texts from you, texts and pictures of you in the coffee shop.
Oh, and don't forget the pages to read. All right. Well, as I'm getting ready to pack up my Mac and head to the coffee shop, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. Visit our website. We're at languageofbromance.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at languageofbro. Email us at eatthebeaver at languageofbromance.com. Like us on Facebook. And remember, we are part of the Pod Bros Network.
The podcast network that is the story before the story. What is the prequel of the what is the prequel of the Pod Bros Network?
I was gonna say it's the podcast network that doesn't need a prequel.
Oh, but I thought we were making them. I mean, if we're making them, we might as well make this one.
All right. Well, is there anything else before I close
Now
her
I'm
out?
picturing a bunch of. Now I'm picturing people in like Pioneer times and be like, "I'm Richard and I'm Shawn, and there's a fucking monster." And they'll be like, number one, those aren't microphones, those are sticks. Number two, what the fuck is a microphone?
Number 3, what's a podcast? God damn it.
Even in Pioneer times. No, it actually makes sense that they say that here.
Especially in Pioneer times. They don't even have electricity.
It doesn't make sense when people say it in 2019. They're just being mean.
All right. Well, is there anything else before I close her out?
Nope. We're good.
All right. Well, that's all the bromance we have for this show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
And I say we eat the beaver. Eat the prequel beaver.
Yeah, they beaver in Pioneer times, I bet.
Oh, yeah, and they made hats.
Oh, my God. Evil beavers, like, they're coming. There's your monster.
Big, giant, angry, hairy beaver.
Yeah, you'd have to, like, sell it as not porn.
Yeah. What would we name that beaver?
I'll tell you later.